Good evening. Oops. I gotta open my book here. He's beat me to it here. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to our meeting this evening. This is the regular scheduled meeting for the El Paso Community College Board of Trustees. And I have to read something here about anyone who wants to listen to us on the internet. You can reach us at youtube.com/user/go EPCC. Okay, I want to call this meeting to order. Go ahead and take your roll call, Pam.
Yes, sir.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Uxer. Mrs. Robles.
Here.
Ms. Nájera.
Here.
Dr. Graham will be here shortly. Ms. Sanchez.
Here.
And Mr. Haggerty.
Here.
And Ms. Pena will not be joining us this evening.
Okay, and before we get started, would everybody please rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Let's see. Four. Okay, wait, before we get started, Pam, does anybody want to speak to us?
No, sir, no one has signed up tonight.
Nobody? Not even the guy with the pistols? The faculty guy, doesn't he want to talk to us?
That's going to be during the different presentation.
Yeah, he's back there hiding from me. I see him back there. You don't want to say anything? You don't have anything to say? Wow. Call the press.
But to do it now would be out of order.
That's right.
Oh, this is where we do it.
No.
Presentations, okay. I guess we will hear from you. You're here. Okay, 1.4, Pam.
Item 1.4, the minutes, approval of minutes. The minutes recorded in the agenda are a summary of the presentations and actions taken. Item 1.4.1, minutes of August 30th, regular Board of Trustees meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Call a question?
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Ms. Nájera,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
and Mr. Haggerty.
Aye. 1.5.
Welcome to guests and staff members.
Okay, I'd like to welcome all the guests and staff members here. Now, 1.6, open forum. Do we have anyone?
We have no one in open forum tonight. The next item would be item 1.7, presentations by individuals, groups, and organizations. Item 1.7.1, optional presentations will be made by the presidents of the Classified Staff Association, the Professional Staff Association, the Faculty Association, and the Student Government Association.
All right.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees, Dr. Serrata, Cabinet members, present, and cyber audience. On behalf of the Professional Staff Association, I'd like to take this time to thank the board and Dr. Serrata for the 6% increase in pay. This will help the financial obstacles that our employees are currently facing. I was going to present today the newly elected treasurer, which is Mr. Frank Munoz, but he wasn't able to attend, and myself, which is the new PSA president for the term 2023 to 2025. Also, I'd like to take this time to thank the PSA members who took time out of their busy schedules to vote, and I'd like to thank you for your time.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Now he's coming up. All right.
I swear I didn't do it.
Members of the board, Mr. President, vice presidents, deans, guests, both live and on the net. When I first came to EPCC back in August 2004 as a full-time tenure track history faculty member, I learned that the maximum number of courses adjunct faculty could teach was 8, 4 in the fall, 4 in the spring. For all the years I've been at EPCC, this 8 maximum load has been the practice. About a year ago, a colleague on Faculty Senate informed me that another faculty member was saying at a discipline meeting that the maximum course load for adjuncts was 7, not 8, 4 in the fall, 3 in the spring, or vice versa. This scenario was offered with no proof. Well, silly me, I decided to look up the actual procedure. And it turned out both the 8-course and 7-course maximums were incorrect. According to EPCC procedure DJ2, credit part-time faculty workload, the maximum number of courses adjuncts could teach was 3 in the fall and 3 in the spring. At the next Faculty Senate meeting, I brought this discrepancy between the procedure and reality to the attention of the senators. After discussion, the Senate passed a resolution asking to change the procedure to reflect the reality of courses per semester. The resolution was presented to the EPCC administration, and at the beginning of this semester, we learned that the procedure in question has been changed to read that adjunct faculty may teach a maximum of 4 classes, 12 equivalent credit hours of instruction per semester, fall and spring. On behalf of the faculty, especially the adjunct faculty, I would like to thank all those involved in bringing about this important change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judge Brown.
Nobody from student government? No?
There comes Dr. Graham. There comes SGA.
Okay. Oh, here they come.
Dr. Graham just got here.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Denise Ayuso. I'm the current president of Student Government Association, representing the students of all 5 campuses of EPCC. Today with me, I have some of the executive board and student government sitting over there.
Why don't you all come up and introduce yourselves? Let the record show that Dr. Graham has joined the meeting.
Howdy, my name is Pablo Hernandez. I'm a new senator for SGA.
What campus?
By Verde.
Okay, tell us your campus.
My name is Ella Castillo. I am the current vice president of Student Government Organization, and I am also in the Valle Verde campus.
Hello, my name is Miriam Espinosa. I am the secretary of SGA.
Hello, my name is Gael Jaramillo. I'm the parliamentarian of the Valle Verde campus.
Anything else?
Just out of curiosity, Judge, our secretary, I guess, doesn't go to any campus. Oh, she's just a secretary.
We're all representatives of Valle Verde campus.
Oh, okay. I just listened. You didn't say anything, and I was curious if you were just wandering around.
She's shy, John, shy. Okay, anything else you'd like us to know?
Not at this time. but
Okay,
Thank
well,
you
we're
very
always
much.
here every month. Come back anytime.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Item 1.8, communications. Item 1.8.1, discussion and review of data, statistics, policies, and general information related to El Paso Community College by the Board of Trustees.
Chair Haggerty and members of the board, we're going to have a presentation on workforce and continuing education that Mr. Blaine Primizich, our Associate Vice President, will present for us some information on Small Business Development Center, among others. But thank you, AVP Primizich, please.
There we go. Good evening, Dr. Serrata, Chair Haggerty, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening about our area. What I wanted to do tonight was give you more of a focused look at our external partnerships and our economic impact in the local area. I had some information that's not exactly slide-friendly, so there are some handouts at the desk with you. Some of it is the information that's in the slides, but compared to last year's numbers, so a little bit of a look back and comparison that we're using to target improvements over the upcoming year. And then also what we wanted to do was really give you an idea of all the partners that our different departments are working with. Where we could, we broke them down by zip codes, so you could match them up to your own districts and areas as well. So I'll be referring back and forth as we go through. So first I would like to draw attention to our Small Business Development Center. We've had a change in leadership over the past year. So our former director, Joe Ferguson, had retired. Ms. Marufo has stepped in and done so admirably and is doing double duty. So she was one of our business advisors and training advisors within the office and has been serving in the interim position. You'll see the numbers from both the look back on the handout plus the slides here show that we've been pretty comparable in the number of clients served, a little bit of a drop, but overall we've had more business expansions in the last year. The business starts lag a little bit, so the data I'm using is from last year's presentation for the look back. What we have is about a 90-day window when new information updates in the UTSA system. So we know that there are a few more clients served, and we know there's a few more dollars infused locally. But to keep things as comparable as possible, I try to just do the as of today dates. But I know those number of new business starts and total clients will go up a little bit over the next month. And then we have our Contract Opportunity Center, headed up by Pablo Armendariz, our director for the office. Here again, really impressive numbers. You'll see there's been an increase in the number of clients served, the counseling hours, and a fairly large increase in the number of contract awards between last year and this past year. And so that 297 businesses counseled, 430 million in awards handed out to our contractors. You'll also see a pretty large increase in the number of attendees and training events. And one of the large ones that happened in spring was a regional summit for contracts. And so this had been an annual event up until the pandemic. This was the first year we were able to hold it here, actually in the boardroom, and then across in the auditorium. So very large attendance for that event. We were very fortunate to have Congresswoman Escobar, State Senator Blanco, send representatives and pre-recorded endorsements for the event. So we're glad to have that back, and it'll return as an annual event. I also wanted to highlight our Risk Management Institute. So Ceci Maurer has run the Institute as a faculty member, so a little bit different than our normal setup within our departments. She's been there for about 6 years, and she has taken over that institute and just run with it. In fact, just last week, Texas Mutual, who is one of the major funders to the area, along with the Susan Harwood grants from the Department of Labor for safety training, she has built a very wide network of partners, and I'll talk a little bit about the picture and the flyer that's on the slide in a second. But just last week, Texas Mutual held their annual summit here in El Paso at the Paso del Norte Hotel. They had 2 different sessions devoted to what EPCC and Ms. Maurer have accomplished here. And so we serve as a model institution for the work that Texas Mutual would like to put forward, understanding that as a major insurer and underwriter for businesses across the state, every dollar they invest in safety training, they get a major return just in fewer claims filed. And we have actually one of the lowest injury rates and mortality rates on the job, according to the Texas Mutual numbers. And so it's a testament to the work that Ms. Maurer, our friends at OSHA, and Texas Mutual have invested in the community. The Susan Harwood grants are going to decrease a little bit through COVID and the rest of the pandemic. Institutions were allowed to apply for multiple grants. With this upcoming year, and you should be seeing a grant abstract in the next month or two for the newest award, but now we're only going to be allowed to go back to the annual award that was customary before. And so these training hours represent Ms. Maurer and her faculty essentially stretching the dollar to serve as many businesses, train as many workers as possible. I'll mention a partnership that we have with UT Arlington as well to establish the OSHA cards and some of the training. But with this Texas Summit event, Ms. Maurer was highlighted simply because she outperforms just about everybody in the Texas Mutual Network in training hours and in safety records. She has been able to bring the training directly on site, helping the employers, something innovative across the Texas Mutual system, and the extensive network that she's developed. So to draw a little attention to that picture, at the right is Adam Pacheco. He heads the El Paso Contractors Association and represents 150 business partners within that, and he was part of the Texas Mutual presentations with Ms. Maurer. And in the middle is Abraham Arzola, our local OSHA compliance officer. And that partnership, again, was instrumental in another major accomplishment for Ms. Maurer. So the Risk Management Institute last fall was awarded an OSHA Alliance partnership. So we're the only institution that has achieved that Alliance Ambassador status within a 4-state network for OSHA. So I wanted to draw attention to that work that's being done. And again, on the handouts, you have a list of, not a complete list because we have well over 1,000 different local businesses and partners that we've partnered with, but a snapshot of the different partners that everybody, of these partnerships that have been cultivated over time. Not to go through the whole list, but to give you an idea of the different types of safety training. This accounts for about 80% of all the training contact hours that have been awarded. And again, all of this is provided free of charge. Now, one of the things that will be changing in the upcoming year, and it's one of the targeted areas, we're going to look, there's essentially, we've been so successful, and essentially Ms. Maurer has been so successful in generating that demand for training that we now have a higher demand than we have dollars. And so we're going to have to start charging for some training on top of the grant-supported training that we offer. And that's something we'll be working to implement over the upcoming year. And then for the Center for Corporate and Workforce Training, here I wanted to highlight just a couple of the partnerships. This office is involved in a number of different things and actually works with Ms. Maurer and the Risk Management Institute, but it provides another outlet for us to provide customized training, both grant-funded and both employer-funded in that. And what I wanted to highlight there is the work we've done with Daltile, with Rocky Mountain Mortgage, even with the Isleta del Sur Pueblo, where the employer has training dollars to expend and comes to us to provide those customized training dollars. We are one of the best values around. So I put the number of hours, the training costs up there to highlight the fact that for the most part, we can offer training between $10 to $15 a contact hour per employee. It's just a tremendous value and typically well under market value if they were going through a third-party vendor. Also wanted to thank Dr. Maisha Pagel and the Fire Technology Program for partnering with us too to provide that fire training. And it's also an area we're probably going to be looking for a certificate of value coming up, but I'll highlight that in a second. Through a pre-apprenticeship grant from TWC, the Texas Workforce Commission, we've been able to do some certified logistics apprentice certified logistics associate and technician training under that grant for Train Casa and Longhorn, and by word of mouth, the popularity of this training is beginning to grow, and that's another area we're going to be looking at building out certificates. And then finally, the Workforce Strategic Initiatives Office, dealing primarily with two different types of Texas Workforce Commission grants, both Skills Development Fund and apprenticeship grants. So this is an area, if you're looking at the two-year comparison, we saw a pretty significant dip there. Some of that is we're restaffing up that area to engage again, and some of it is the typical skills development grant can take 4 to 5 months from first contact with an employer to final approval from TWC to get the MOUs in place, the training plan approved by TWC, and then all of the approvals. And so there's a pretty significant investment in time that goes into these. So this past year we completed and we'll be entering closeout with the Toro and Southwest Venture Plastics grants within a couple of months. But on the agenda today, I wanted to point out we do have 2 new Skills Development Fund grants for your approval. One for the Hospitals of Providence. This is the 3rd grant that we have done with them and Texas Workforce Commission. So we have a pretty significant award there and estimated training hours. And then for Bien Vivir, the All-Inclusive Health Network. Stumbled on that one. But again, another significant award. And we have 2 more partners that we're finalizing paperwork and getting approvals for the training plans. And so we'll have 2 in operation within 2 weeks, and then hopefully, and then we should have 2 more approved by the November board meeting, and we have more partners that we're negotiating with right now. So a lull, but we have some pretty aggressive targets that we've picked for the upcoming year to improve the output. And then on the apprenticeship side, you'll notice the number of grant awards decreased, but the number of apprentices increased from last year to this year. So again, some efficiencies in that we are a pass-through on the apprenticeship dollars, so we simply are reimbursing training costs back to our partners. And then the last topic to discuss was our area also works with a number of non-credit programs, and so the new House Bill 8 funding formula for the community colleges looks at certificate of values. Occupational skills award is becoming a new phrase that we're all learning. And on that, there's a number of data sources and partners that we're working with to identify what we build out next and what best serves our community business partners. And so you'll see absolutely the Workforce Solutions Borderplex publishes an annual report on in-demand jobs, and they have their hot jobs list. This also determines what programs of ours that they can put WIOA students, the Workforce Innovation Act students, and fund them in our programs. But it also has a relationship to the Occupational Skills Award and Certificates of Value, where what we build out and what will be funded by the state is supposed to align with the in-demand jobs within the region. And so looking at that, we have some targeted areas. Logistics and logisticians are very high on the list. To make it into the hot jobs list, there has to be a predicted 10% annual growth for 10 years in that occupational category. There has to be over $16 an hour in wages, and there has to be over 20 annual openings within the local area. And so logistics actually has a 45% growth rate and over 60 openings annually predicted. And all the warehouse growth in the area, all the construction that's going on right now points to the need for these programs. But again, we're working on logistics both with the Business Higher Education Forum and very directly with Jobs for the Future. They're coming in, guiding us through a process of building local advisory committees, comparing our work to what other institutions have done. And the idea is, absolutely, we want people into good paying jobs quickly, but we also want them to see a career path. And so it's not just building the first certificate, it's building stackable credentials into a career pathway, and then that's what we want to do as a pilot with logistics. But we have some research from our firm Hanover that's pointed to some growth areas, and they've done some analysis of marketable skills that come up frequently in job postings throughout the area. And so all things law enforcement, office skills, Microsoft Office, accounting software come up very, very frequently. So it's other opportunities for us to build out programs. Also, is part of the course sharing pilot project that the state's engaging in, the coordinating board is building a labor market information tool. And so I'm sitting on the group that's piloting. They're in beta testing on the tool. It hasn't been completely filled out with information for our area yet. So we're not able to present what that tool looks like. But again, it's going to be mirroring the hot jobs list from the Workforce Solutions Board and help us target what businesses and what areas to build programs into. And so with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. And if you have, I actually have the question slide, so if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
I do have a few questions. On the firefighting, do they also get a certificate for EMT or paramedic when they get their certificate for firefighting?
We present a certificate, but a lot of the training that we do allows them to test for a state certificate. And so
firefighting. My question is, where do they go if they want to get their EMT or paramedic? Do we have those courses here at the college?
we do. We have a very extensive EMT program. We do. They're run separately, and they fall under two different deans. But we have an EMT program, and then we also have the firefighter.
Okay. My next question, is there anything in the future for any courses on AI?
That's an interesting question. That would probably be for Dr. Pagel.
Happy to jump in, Chair Haggerty. Yeah, we are exploring AI in a big way. Dr. Christian Servine is already working on not only courses, but exploring programs and transfer programs with UTEP as well for AI.
Okay. So we've been doing it now, if I hear, about 2 years, so we're finally catching up.
Well, I don't know if a lot of academia has programs in AI. I think we're all trying to play catch up with AI and ChatGPT and their different flavors in the industry. Just as an aside, as an institution, as a faculty, we will also have to figure out how we're going to integrate and oversee the use of AI in our curriculum for our students as well.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question on, I guess that's going to be your new challenge after COVID, the AI. So do we have any plans or partnerships that we're working on with, entities like Google, IBM, or AWS, or, some of the where we could have more jobs available through apprenticeships or partnerships with those big technology users?
We do, actually.
I'll be happy to jump in as well. All of the above, Dr. Graham. We have partnerships with Grow with Google, with Microsoft, IBM, Cisco. Yeah, we're involved with all of those companies, including local companies like ADP and some of the other data processing centers here. Those partnerships are going to be an increasingly important part of what we do as the state funding model looks at shorter-term stackable credentials, and AVP Primizich's area will be at the forefront. They're the most nimble arm of what we do at the institution. They're able to create programs and revise things very, very quickly. We have a customized training arm there as well. For individuals and corporations to come to us and say, I need training in X, we can create a training program very, very quickly for that. The credit arm of the institution tends to move a little slower because there's approvals from SACS, the coordinating board, Department of Ed, all those things. So the presentation that AVP Primizich gave is very timely in light of the new funding model for the state.
And are we able to also measure outcomes there?
Absolutely. That's a big part of everything we do. In fact, Dr. Serrata was sharing some outcome data with us yesterday that we want to look at.
From here?
Mm-hmm.
From throughout the state?
Both, actually. We always compare our data not only with our past data, but also with state data, statewide data.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the information.
Thank you for your time.
Good.
Item 1.9, Board of Trustees business. Item 1.9.1.
Pam, 1.9.1, 1.9.2, 3, 4, and 5, along with 8.1. We'll come back and do that after executive session.
Is that okay, council?
That's fine. Judge, item 1.9.1 is simply to come up with proposed dates for subsequent board meetings.
We'll discuss that back there in executive session, and we'll come back and let everybody know when they can come see us in October, November.
Understood.
Okay.
Okay. 1.10.
1.10, Board Reports. Item 1.10.1, Treasurer's Report. There is none. Item 1.10.2, President's Report. Item 1.10.2.1, Dr. William Serrata, College President, will update the Board of Trustees and audience on recent events that have transpired at El Paso Community College.
Good afternoon, Chair Haggerty and members of the board. I'd like to begin my report by congratulating Board Chair Haggerty for being selected as the 2023 Western Region ACCT Trustee Leadership Award winner.
Cost me a lot of money.
We appreciate your dedication to the college district and thank you for your leadership. Congratulations, Judge Haggerty. I would also like to congratulate Ms. Pam Payne on being a now two-time selected as the 2023 ACCT Professional Board Staff Member for the Western Region. Thank you, Pam, for your outstanding support and dedication. Your organizational skills, expertise, and hard work make a significant difference in our daily operations. We truly appreciate everything you do. Thank you for your dedication and service. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We will find out if they go beyond and are more than just the Western Region winners at a conference later in the month of October where the national winners will be selected. But we're incredibly proud of both Judge Haggerty and Ms. Payne on the selection for the Western Region. Somehow Texas in ACCT's mind is in the Western Region. Believe in Students awarded EPCC as part of their West Texas Emergency Aid funding. Believe in Students and the mobile app Equity, now Beam, partner with 3 colleges in West Texas to provide emergency aid funding over 2 academic years. The funding was utilized to help keep students in school as well as in their homes with their families intact. In total, $293,000 of these funds were dispersed to more than 500 EPCC students. As a result of this pilot effort, Believe in Students completed a report about student basic needs and the importance of emergency aid. The report is here for you to see on the podium. As a result of the pilot, Believe in Students completed that report and the importance of emergency aid. The report outlines how basic needs insecurity is pervasive on college campuses, with students facing real-time needs due to the challenges related to food and housing instability, inadequate health care, and rising attendance costs. These finance-related challenges have a significant negative impact on a student's academic performance and are associated with stopping out and dropping out of college, even when the financial challenge amounts to a relatively small dollar amount. EPCC is featured on pages 20 and 21 of the report. The college was recognized with the 2023-2024 Military Friendly School Gold designation by Victory. The Military Friendly Schools list sets the standard for higher education institutions to provide the best opportunities for veterans, God bless you, and their spouses. Institutions earning the Military Friendly Schools Award were evaluated using public data sources and responses from a proprietary survey. Over 1,800 schools participated in the 23-24 survey. EPCC proudly serves over 3,000 service members, veterans, and their families annually. Our goal is to serve these students in the most effective and efficient way possible so that they can reach their academic goals. In hospitals across the region, surgical tech grads from EPCC are working behind the scenes to provide optimal patient care. Surgical techs were recognized for their invaluable contributions to the medical field on September 12th via a proclamation at the El Paso City Council meeting. Congratulations to our grads on this great recognition, as well as their faculty who provide the course instruction. I'm happy to share that our nursing students continue to excel. Their NCLEX graduation pass rates improved from January through June. The pass rate for the associate degree program is at 91.3%, and the pass rate for the vocational nursing program is at 95.45%. NCLEX is the licensure exam our nursing students take once they graduate from our nursing programs. Congratulations to our students and the nursing division faculty and staff who continue to play a major role in the success of our nursing students. On August 30th, the Language Institute welcomed its students back. The Institute hosted 230 students during its Career Expo at the new AST building at the Valle Verde campus for the first time since the pandemic. College programs and services showcased credit opportunities for scholars to pursue upon completion of their program. Thank you to the 19 exhibitors from across the district who participated and special thanks to the Language Institute staff organizers, Ms. Lucy Flores, manager, and Berta Munoz, coordinator, for the great work and dedication to student engagement. EPCC welcomed educators from area school districts to the annual EPCC Expo. The educators learned about all the programs and services that make EPCC the best place to start and finish, networking with EPCC and community partners, plus a tour of our culinary arts, cosmetology, nail technology, and massage therapy programs were among the day's activities at the EPCC Expo Friday. I want to thank all the area schools who took part. Kudos to Dr. Amaya, Dr. Smith, and their respective staffs who participated in this expo. Earlier this month, student leadership and campus life and the counseling department at the Mission del Paso campus initiated this year's QEP, Back to School events. Each campus held fairs to officially welcome our students to our campuses and to promote the quality enhancement plan, Find Your Way, Connect, Discover, Succeed. The fairs were also used to promote the use of My EPCC website and other online tools such as DegreeWorks. Overall, there were more than 1,000 students who attended these back-to-school resource fairs, and we look forward to seeing students take advantage of the resources available to them. Since our last board meeting, I participated in over 45 virtual and/or in-person meetings, including 3 Texas Association of Community College meetings. That included an officers meeting, a business advisory briefing, and I co-chaired the Business Advisory Council meeting. Conducted an interview with Mr. Danny Bettis from El Paso Matters to discuss Texas Community College finance and what HB 8 meant specifically to El Paso Community College. Ms. Sanchez and I met with Mr. Joe Gudenroth, Executive Director of the El Paso Downtown Management District. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez, for making time to join me. Attended the El Paso branch of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas Board of Directors meeting. Attended a reception for Humanities Texas 50th anniversary at former Mayor Margot's home. This year, EPCC is celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Leadership Academy under the direction of Dr. Linda Brown, and I had the pleasure of welcoming the participants. Congratulations on 20 years. Attended the CAT annual conference with Chair Haggerty and Ms. Nájera, where some of the best sessions that I attended included Hometown Highlights by Tarrant County College, Meeting the Workforce Needs of the Future, House Bill 8101, Being Human in the Age of AI, hence the AI questions from Chair Haggerty, Attorney Roundtable on Ethical Governance as well. We held our annual State of the College address during Professional Development Day. We had about 350 staff members attend here at the ASC, and we also live streamed it to each of the respective campuses. We had just short of 1,000 views on YouTube, and it was a pleasure to see so many of our colleagues in person. I was invited to be the keynote speaker at this year's Father-Son Conference, which was held at Socorro High School this past Saturday, the 23rd of September, where I had the pleasure of addressing the important ties between fathers and sons. Thank you, Dr. Graham, for attending the event, in particular on a Saturday, and for ensuring that Mr. Graham also attended the event. I participated in a conversation with Education Design Lab. Dr. Smith joined me, the lab's community college growth engine. Chair Haggerty, that concludes my report, and I'm happy to respond to any questions that the board may have.
Talking about that conference we attended, is there any way in the near future that we can get a presentation on esports?
Yes, absolutely, Judge. Yeah.
That was brought up also.
Yep.
Chair Hag, I have a question. Dr. Serrata?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the Believe in Students presentation, and we all have a letter here. I guess it went to Dr. Moe, and I noticed in there that it congratulated, said, I also appreciated engaging 2 of your students. Okay, 2 questions. First of all, it'd be nice for us to know who they were, and if we find it, and then make sure that they receive this recognition that from a national headquarters. I think this would be.
No, we certainly will look into that, Mr. Uxer. I don't know if they were part of the research, and if they were part of the research, then they would be, confidentiality would be a part of that, but I'll find out and make sure.
You mean as far as even being named?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But I will follow up. If they're not, we'll absolutely acknowledge them.
Well, at least they first, maybe from you, then if it's confidential.
Will do.
Any other question?
I don't have a question. I was just going to mention, Dr. Serrata, that I attended the presentations at the Father-Son Conference, and they were very, very impressive. Everybody that presented on behalf of EPCC was prepared and had wonderful information to share.
Dr. Graham, thank you for mentioning that. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Dr. Soraya Hajar, who coordinates all of those presentations for the institution from throughout the district. And they were there early in the morning because I saw them early in the morning as I arrived, and I know that they were there throughout the day. And so we certainly appreciate the great presentations that Dr. Hajar and her team coordinate.
My husband was so impressed with one of the presentations that he wants to sign up for a class.
Excellent.
Any other questions?
Not a question on this, but I was just wondering, I noticed at noon today on channel whatever at TV that Mr. Haney was on there talking about the EPCC sponsored Buddy Walk. I thought he did a good job, and yeah, appreciate being involved in it.
No, thank you, Mr. Uxer. I noticed that as well, and noticed we had an advertisement of it. Mr. Heine did a great job with that. I'd asked Dr. Moe to speak on it, but Dr. Moe actually was on a flight early this morning. She's representing the institution at a meeting in D.C.
Anyway, Mr. Haney needs a pat on the back.
Will do.
He needs one.
All right, Pam, 1.11.
Item 1.11, consent docket. This includes item 3.2.
Move to approve?
Second.
Okay, would you want to read those real quick, Pam? 3.2 and I guess that's it, 3.1.
Item 3.2 are full-time externally funded actions.
Consider discussion and action to approve full-time staff and faculty recruited to positions funded by grants and/or contracts. And 3.1 is institutionally funded appropriations and extensions. Any discussion on those 2 items? Call the question.
Mr. Uxer.
Aye.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Ms. Naheda.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye. Okay, Pam, 2.1.
Item 2.1 is administration, and it's 2.1 FD local TASB policy is presented for second reading and approval.
I have a motion.
Move to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question, Pam.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Ms. Naheda,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item
4.0.
3.1 is was not on the consent docket, so that is personnel item. So item 3.1, discussion and action to approve full-time staff and faculty recruited in positions funded by the institutional budget.
Move to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Ms. Naheda,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye. Any 3.3?
All right. Item 3.3, information items, resignations, and retirements. No action is required. Section 4, financial services. Item 4.1, discussion and action on the approval to purchase from Dell Marketing LP desktop computers and laptops to upgrade technology district-wide in an amount not to exceed $2,227,905.
Move to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question.
Mr. Uxer,
Again? Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Ms. Naheda,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 4.2, discussion and action on the approval to purchase from Pivot Technology Services Corporation an identity service engine hardware and licenses in the amount of $233,064.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Ms. Naheda,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 4.3, discussion and action on the approval to purchase equipment and services from AV Concepts and Security LLC for the upgrade of technology in the culinary arts program in an amount not to exceed $197,500.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes,
Call-
just a question. If this is for culinary arts, then I presume it's not for pots and pans. If you're approving, what are you providing to culinary arts?
Yes, sir, you are correct. It is not for pots and pans. This is for audiovisual equipment that is going to be used within the culinary arts, as well as the ASC B building foyer. So this is a collaboration with culinary arts and the AVP Blaine Primisich as well.
Okay, okay.
Any other questions? Call the question.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Ms. Naheda,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 4.4, discussion and action on the approval of an interlocal agreement with Alamo Community College District to cooperate on the purchase of commonly used goods and services.
Move to approve?
Second.
Any discussion?
Question. What's an example of commonly good, just a couple examples of commonly goods and services?
Hello, Mr. Gallardo.
So one example is, back in May, the Board of Trustees approved a contract for the purchase of the district's Adobe licenses. That's the software that's used to access PDF documents. And as a matter of fact, that was the genesis of all of these agreements. These colleges approached us and wanted to piggyback on our RFP. So that would be something that we have in common, the use of Adobe.
So that's considered as a service as opposed to an IT function?
That's considered a service. Well, yeah, it is a license to use the software. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So does that give us a better price when we have these collaborative arrangements?
Yes, ma'am. Theoretically, pooling our resources does result in a lower price for everybody.
And how do we decide like what colleges we're partnering with? Because I'm seeing several coming through on the agendas.
You're right. These two documents that you see here, these two requests are the fifth and the sixth one. They approached us, and they're the biggest colleges in Texas, biggest community colleges. The group as a whole, they're larger colleges. I don't know that they're the biggest, but I
Do
think.
they advertise a whole group together to, or how?
No, they approached us. They approached me about these interlocal agreements. Each one individually did.
Are these services, are they peculiar to one or more of the institutions, or is there value in us approaching as all 50 community colleges for all of these? I know goods and services. Can we just have a blank?
Yeah,
Does that work?
No, it's a great question, Mr. Uxer. So a number of years ago, the Texas Association of Community Colleges had a position where they were specific to this, and over a period of years, we did not see the results of having that particular position, and the investment in it was not squared, so to speak. And so the association chose not to move forward with that particular position any longer. So what we've had is, my recollection is that Dallas and Lone Star were both on last month's agenda. Dallas and Lone Star are two of the largest. Alamo, actually Lone Star is the largest, Dallas is third, Alamo is the second largest, and then McLennan is a smaller college that chose to move forward and partner with us. So what you have now is colleges that are trying to form alliances to try and get a better deal on some of these products and services. And so we're happy to partner with any of our community colleges that wish to partner with us.
It just seems to me that if there's a blanket for all 50 and then, and then.
We thought the exact same thing a number of years ago. And we had a director of purchasing at the association, and over a period of time, we did not see the results of that. Yeah.
Yes, sir. That lasted 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Probably 3 or 4 too many.
Any other questions? Call a question, Pam?
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Uxer.
Thank you, Mr. Captain.
Mrs. Robles. Mrs. Robles. Ms. Naheda.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 4.5, discussion and action on the approval of an interlocal agreement with McLennan Community College to cooperate on the purchase of commonly used goods and services.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any other questions? Call a question, Pam.
Mr. Uxer.
Aye.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Ms. Naheda.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Section 5, physical facilities, item 5.1, discussion and action on the approval to amend the awarded contract with Carl Daniel Architects to provide additional architectural services for the design of office relocation renovations in Building C at the Valle Verde campus in order to accommodate the installation of the new elevators in an additional amount not to exceed $112,958.
Move to approve.
5.2 and 5.3.
Okay. Are we taking your motion?
Yes.
Who's going to second 5.2 and 5.3?
I'll second it.
Okay. Read 5.2 and 5.3, Pam.
Was it just 5.2? Item 5.2, discussion and action on the approval of expenditures with various vendors for the purchase of materials, supplies, and/or services as needed district-wide for fiscal year 2023, 2024. Item 5.3, discussion and action on the approval of the selection of architectural firms for design services for various upcoming district-wide construction projects.
Are there any questions on any of those three items?
I have a question. On the road, how does that work? 'Cause I see the chart in the backup and I reviewed that. But is it based on a rotational basis in terms of the selection of the vendors? Anyone?
Ms. Lobato's coming, Ms. Sanchez.
I see it says a not to exceed amount, so I'm wondering if it's that not
Good
to
evening.
exceed for that vendor.
I'm sorry?
So I see in the backup where it says like on each, all the vendors are listed, right? And then it has the amount, and then it says not to exceed. So
Yes.
that assures that, okay, we're gonna use this vendor, but not go over that particular amount, so that I guess everybody gets a fair shot of the,
Not to exceed on any one,
yeah.
but yes, to answer your original question, we do try and rotate through them, yes, ma'am.
So how do we make the decision how to rotate then, right?
Well, it's typically dependent on the project. Each one of them almost has some sort of specialty or some past history that we've used them on. So we try and keep it on similar projects. However, once we use one, we do our best to go to the next one and try and keep everything even, on an even keel.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the only concern would be like, for example, one vendor gets more of the referrals than the other because there's just maybe been a comfort level in terms of working with it, which is fine if they have a certain expertise, but I worry that that then becomes a complaint from maybe some of the other vendors who feel that maybe they didn't.
We
get-
try and avoid that working with purchasing, who keeps
Yeah.
us up to date on what we're spending with each one.
Yeah, and maybe later, maybe at the end of the year, maybe this is just an idea, just in terms of to ensure that there's just good accounting and that there's no criticism, that maybe we could just do an evaluation, maybe after like the fiscal year. I know these come up every year to see maybe the totals for each one. And it's just a good practice, I think, and just something that we can
You can bring it back
just
to
be
the board.
mindful of.
We do track that, we just don't share that with anyone. We can,
Yeah,
yes.
perfect. That would be great, like at the end of the year, maybe if that's like a special meeting or during budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You know, and just a comment out of the doctor's side, I was thinking that it would be nice to keep those things in a format that you can use, because I go back to when we were leasing or letting out the bids for all of the services to build the buildings, and they came up with the question, why aren't you using local services and how much you using for local? And I think just to be able to identify what we do, expenditures in the community and how we do participate economically in the community, for you to have those.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you want to publish it or but it would be a good pat on the back. We can pat ourselves.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Call a question, Pam.
Mr. Haggerty, I'd like to ask for a point of clarification. I believe the original motion was for 5.1 and 5.2, but you had indicated to read all three, so is 5.3 included in that motion?
It was, I think she said 5.3.
Yes, okay. Okay. Mr. Uxer?
Aye.
Mrs. Robles?
Aye.
Ms. Naheda?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms.
So-
Sanchez?
I have a question. So did we include 5.1, 2, and 3?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
That's what you said.
yes.
That's what I heard.
Ms. Sanchez, I'm sorry.
Aye.
And Mr. Haggerty?
Aye?
Section 6, Curriculum and Instruction. Item 6.1, Discussion and Action on the Acceptance of a Grant Award from the Texas Workforce Commission in the amount of $359,678.
Motion to approve 6.1 and 6.2.
Second.
Read 6.2, Pam.
Item 6.2, Discussion and Action on the Acceptance of a Grant Award from the Texas Workforce Commission in the amount of $109,150.
Chair Haggerty and members of the board, I'll call on Dr. Smith to provide some context on these grants, as well as provide the kudos to our team who deserve those for writing these.
Thank you, Dr. Serrata. You got a little bit of a preliminary heads up as AVP Primozic presented his economic impact for the various areas. This particular area, led by Dr. Carmen Aguilar-Gerner, has been a superstar area. You see pretty much grants on every one of our board agendas. And so their team, coupled with our grants management office, led by Mr. Robert Elliott, have been doing a phenomenal job in increasing the economic viability of our region. So the impact of these grants is that incumbent and new employees are taught and trained for higher level positions. And so part of this grant includes a commitment by the institutions and corporations of increasing the wages of the participants, either through new jobs or increased wages in existing jobs. And so you see each month we see new grants put on the agenda, different companies. This happens to be the third one for the Hospitals of Providence. This is our first one for Bien Vivir, so we're pretty excited about that and our continued relationship with them. But I would like to recognize not only Mr. Primozic, but also Carmen Aguilar-Gerner, who's in the audience, and Bob Elliott and his team in the audience as well. So thank you all.
It's close to $500,000 this time.
Have we incorporated a finder's fee for these grant writers?
Shh. We don't want to talk about that. No, there is no finder's fee for the grant.
Why not?
They're doing a great job. I'm actually not sure that the Texas Workforce Commission would even allow a finder's fee as part of the grant.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Call the question, Pam.
Mr. Uxer.
Aye.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Ms. Naheda.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Section 7, Student Services, Item 7.1, discussion and action on the approval of a contract award to the College Board for the required support in academic assessment testing of students in an amount not to exceed $120,000.
Move to approve?
Second?
Any discussion?
Yes. Just out of curiosity, what is required to assess people to come to me? I thought, you had to have a GED or a high school diploma. And on top of that, given the current rumors you hear that four-year institutions are dropping the college, the SAT and the LSAT and all the other letters. So what do we have to assess that's going to cost $120,000?
Sure, great question, Mr. Uxer. So, and I'll let Dr. Smith jump in too, because it's partner, right? We provide the testing space and the exams. They take this TSI A2 now. It determines levels of college readiness, where to place the students in their courses. So there's a certain set of scores that we use to place students in the appropriate place. And so I don't know if Dr. Smith wants to jump in and talk a little bit about the scores or how that might work.
Sure, I'm happy to. I'll try and be brief because this is an area that's pretty important to me and, of course, all of instruction. So first of all, the state of Texas mandates the TSIA2 exam for all college entrance participants. And it does gauge the college readiness in three areas: reading, writing, and mathematics. And so we're able to use those scores to help assist us in placing the students. I'll also share that we've been participating in a statewide project, one of the few colleges participating in a pilot project to identify alternative measures of college readiness. So it's not just to make this cut score and you're going to be placed in Math 1304. There are a number of factors we consider, including high school GPA, high school math test scores. Did they place highly on a reading intensive high school class such as history or government? And so it's a complex question to try and gauge college readiness. With the new funding model, and somebody can get the hook anytime, but with the new funding model, we will likely see fewer and fewer students having to pass TSIA in certain areas. Our current CTE programs are not required to demonstrate college readiness for students when they place into some of those programs, especially our level 1 certificates. And with the short-term training that we see coming down the pipe for under House Bill 8, I think we'll continue to see that being less of a consideration for certain programs at the institution.
Do we still have the pre-assessment assessment programs?
The prep program?
Yeah, that are non-credit, but you have to pass it to get into the credit math and credit English classes. Do we still have that?
We have a number of initiatives. We've got the prep program that helps prepare students to pass parts of the TSIA. We also have what's called a co-requisite model, where we pair a developmental math or English course with a college-level math or English course. The students take them simultaneously. That way they don't fall behind or increase the time to degree. They don't have to take 2 different semesters. They knock them out in 1 semester.
So this the required testing, which I guess is a TSI, is actually part of the assessment used to place them either in a developmental class or go ahead and put them straight into a credit class, I guess.
Yes, sir.
And at the early college, high school, we also use that. The problem that I was going to address is how do we have somebody besides Ms. Vadillo working on tracking to see that the students have passed it, and if not, have retaken it? Because that became an issue, when the students don't pass it and nobody sends them back to retest, and then all of a sudden they're not eligible to be in those early college classes, credit courses, dual credit courses, and then the fingers pointed to EPCC dropped the ball, and then you look into it and EPCC didn't drop the ball, somebody at the high school didn't, nobody told them at the high school supposedly. So do we have somebody that's overseeing the TSI?
As wonderful as Dean Badillo is, that isn't her responsibility. That doesn't fall to her. But she does work with all of our partner districts and make sure that they're knowledgeable about the tests. There's also, under the 2013 legislation, House Bill 5 was created. There are high school courses now that students can take to demonstrate college readiness in English and math. And if they pass those as seniors, they don't have to take the TSIE2. And so we do regular training with all of the districts regarding that particular avenue for students. But we do attempt to make sure that all of our ISD partners understand the importance of testing. I would invite Dr. Amaya to chime in
I was
as
just
well.
wondering if we have a system to flag the ones that have not passed it so that either the college or the ISDs pick it up before they tell the kiddo or the student, you know what, we're going to have to move you out of dual credit because you haven't passed it.
We do, great question.
This happens 9 weeks after the kid's been or the student has been in the class.
No, you're right, Dr. Graham. We do work with our partner institutions, particularly through our recruitment process. So during recruitment, and I'll give an example, and you'll be hearing it from me next month, as we get ready to visit the schools for Operation College Bound, our recruitment team and our admissions team work together. They're working with the partners. We're getting information on students. We're sharing rosters between EPCC and the ISDs, looking at who's tested, who's missing applications, documents, FAFSA, all of the above. We're looking forward. Right now, this is very much a process that we do, going back and forth with the schools. We're looking into some new software that's going to help us track the students.
Good. I think we need it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Call a question, Pip.
Mr. Uxer.
Aye, but I do have I had a lady back there standing up like she had some information for us, so I'm just pointing out to you, Chair, that he's running the show. I'm just pointing out,
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christina Garza. I'm the new Director of Testing. So to answer your question, we are also giving training to all of the school districts so they can understand the importance of checking which students have already passed, because a number of the schools were still having the students retake the test, even though they had already satisfied. So we are also trying to get that word out so that we can make sure that we don't drop the ball in the future.
I just think the idea of a software to help you with that would be ideal, mostly
Definitely.
because, you're looking at a high school that's got 3,000 students. It's going to be easy for one of them or 2 or 10 to fall by the wayside. I mean, we saw it happen already. And it's not that people don't care, it's just they've got so many that they're tracking.
No, definitely.
Thank you.
Mrs. Robles. Aye. Ms. Naheda?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez?
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty?
Aye.
Item 7.2, discussion and action on the approval of continuing education tuition rates for new courses.
Move to approve?
Second?
Any discussion? Call the question?
Mr. Uxer?
Aye.
Mrs. Robles?
Aye.
Ms. Naheda?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez?
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty?
Aye.
Item 7.3, discussion and action on the approval of continuing education tuition rates for revised courses.
Move to approve? Second?
Any discussion? Call the question?
Mr. Uxer?
Aye.
Mrs. Robles?
Aye.
Ms. Naheda?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez?
Aye.
And Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Section 8, Community Services. Item 8.1 will be discussed after executive session.
We're
Would
gonna
the
go
board
into
care to
executive
go into
session.
executive session at this time? All right. Item 1.3, Executive and Closed Session. The Board of Trustees may conduct an executive or closed session pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code for one or more of the following reasons: consultation with its attorney to seek or receive legal advice, or consultation regarding pending or contemplated litigation, or for any purpose authorized by law, discussion about the value or transfer of real property, discussion about a prospective gift or donation, consideration of specific personnel matters, discussion about security, personnel, or devices, or discussion of certain economic development matters. The board may also announce that it will go into executive session on any item listed on this agenda if the subject matter is permitted for a closed session by provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. Any vote regarding these items shall be taken in open session. Item 1.3.1, discussion with legal counsel regarding lease and easement negotiations with El Paso Electric for a temporary power substation at the college's northwest campus pursuant to Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code. Item 1.3.2, discussion with legal counsel regarding lease negotiations with Texas Tech University for the public television station pursuant to Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code. Discussion with legal counsel regarding the bankruptcy matter styled in regards to Texas Association of Public Schools Property and Liability Fund, cause number 17-52437-RBK, pending in the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Western District of Texas, San Antonio Division, pursuant to Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. Item 1.3.4, discussion with legal counsel regarding negotiations with Nexstar Media Group Incorporated as successor to Nexstar Broadcasting Incorporated for the parking lot adjacent to the college's Rio Grande campus pursuant to Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code. Item 1.3.5, discussion with legal counsel regarding a professional services agreement for legal services pursuant to Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. Item 1.3.6, discussion with legal counsel regarding the proposed termination of a physical plant employee pursuant to Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. Item 1.3.7, discussion with legal counsel and take possible action regarding EEOC charge filed by Catalina Valtierra Pinon, charge number 453-2023-00824, pursuant to Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. It is now 5:49. The board is in executive session.
Okay, we're back out of executive session. Pam, read 1.9.1, please.
Yes, sir. Item 1.9.1, discussion and take possible action regarding scheduling of regular board meetings through December 2023.
Okay, do we have to make a motion or just let you know what it is? Okay, I make a motion. We're going to meet in October 23rd at 4:30 here in the board meeting room. And for November, we're going to meet on November 29th, 4:30 in this room. And for December, as we are not going to schedule anything, we may have to, but right now, no, because of the November meeting being on the 29th. So do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question, Pam?
Mr. Uxer?
Aye.
Mrs. Robles?
Aye.
Ms. Naheda?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez?
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty?
Aye.
Item 1.9.2, discussion and action to authorize Dr. William Serrata, college president, or his designee to execute a ground lease and transmission/distribution easement with El Paso Electric regarding a temporary power substation at the college's northwest campus.
We have a motion?
Move to approve?
Second?
Any discussion? Call the question, Pam.
Mr. Uxer?
Aye.
Mrs. Robles?
Aye.
Ms. Naheda?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez?
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty?
Aye.
Item 1.9.3, discussion and take possible action regarding the bankruptcy matter styled in regards to Texas Association of Public Schools Property and Liability Fund, cause number 17-52437-RBK, pending in the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Western District of Texas, San Antonio Division.
Motion to enter into a settlement agreement as discussed under the terms in executive session.
Do we have a motion, a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question, Pam.
Mr. Uxer?
Aye.
Mrs. Robles?
Aye.
Ms. Naheda?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez?
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty?
Aye.
Item 1.9.4, discussion and action to authorize Dr. William Serrata, college president, or his designee to execute a correction special warranty deed with Nexstar Media Group Incorporated as successor to Nexstar Broadcasting Incorporated, and take any other necessary action regarding the parking lot adjacent to the college's Rio Grande campus.
No action needed.
Okay. Item 1.9.5, discussion and take possible action regarding EEOC charge filed by Catalina Valtiera Pinon, charge number 453-2023-00824.
No action needed.
And
Okay, do we have a motion for adjournment?
now we have one more item, don't we?
Oh.
One more.
Oh, yeah,
Item
1.8.
Item 8.1, discussion and action on the approval to accept the transfer of a generator located at the ASC from Texas Tech University inventory formerly used by KCOS TV at the EPCC ASC Building A.
Move to approve?
Second?
Any discussion? Call the question, Pam.
Mr. Uxer?
Aye.
Mrs. Robles?
Aye.
Ms. Naheda?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez?
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty?
Aye.
Okay.
Now do I have a motion for adjournment?
Second. Done.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Okay, 7:12 PM and the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Doc.